is that they're trying to limit what I'm able to do when I get there. I mean, my goal is to see my grandmother. Again, she's in her 90s. This could be my last chance to see her.
If she comes, she's welcome.
Are you happy?
Yes, I'm happy.
We are with Rashida in rejecting this decision. We consider it the right decision.
So that's the controversy of the week, whether or not Rashida Tlaib should be allowed to visit her aging grandmother in the West Bank. Let's bring in our panel. Charles Hurt, opinion editor for the Washington Times, Leslie Marshall, Democratic strategist, and Byron York, chief political correspondent at the Washington Examiner. Before we get to the discussion, the occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is just out with a tweet about all of this. Let's get to the news on that. Donald Trump writes, Israel was very respectful and nice to Representative Rashida Tlaib, allowing her permission to visit her grandmother. As soon as she was granted permission, she grandstanded and loudly proclaimed she would not visit Israel. Could this possibly have been a setup? Israel acted appropriately. Charlie, that sound encapsulates the whole chain of events. She wanted to go, she was blocked, then Israel said you can go, and she said no, I'm not going to go. So is this about politics or about a family visit?
Well, clearly it's about politics, because if it was about her aging grandmother, she would have taken Israel up on the offer. Look, Israel has a right to determine who comes into their country and who doesn't come into the country. What I find most interesting about this is the fact that Congresswoman Omar and Tlaib seem to agree that Israel has the right to determine who comes into their country and who doesn't come into their country, because they agreed to stick by the directive of the government there. I would like them to then turn to our government and acknowledge that we too have a right to determine who comes into our country and who doesn't come into our country. I think that would be a very, very nice turnabout from those two congresswomen.
I want to read the tweet that Rashida Tlaib put out and then follow that with one from the Israeli Interior Minister. She wrote, silencing me and treating me like a criminal is not what she wants, meaning her grandmother, not what she wants for me. It would kill a piece of me. I have decided that visiting my grandmother under these oppressive conditions stands against everything I believe in, fighting against racism, oppression, and injustice. And then from the Israeli Interior Minister, the person who ultimately approved her visit, he writes, Representative Tlaib just tweeted she won't be coming to Israel. Just yesterday, she sent me a letter asking to visit her 90-year-old grandmother, saying it might be my last chance to meet her. He goes on to write, I approved her request as a gesture of goodwill on a humanitarian basis, but it was just a provocative request aimed at bashing the state of Israel. Apparently, her hate for Israel overcomes her love for her grandmother. And that's where he left it. If she really wants to see her aging grandmother, Leslie, why not take Israel up on the offer, go visit her, and then come back and talk politics when she gets back?
Because there are a couple of things here. First of all, originally, Israel said it was okay for them to go. The president got involved, and then all of a sudden, they can't go. They weren't there just to see her grandmother. Obviously, Representative Ilhan Omar does not have a relationship to this woman. And I think after discussing it not only with her family, but when she had the pushback from the Palestinian community, which is, you shouldn't be the puppet, and this is one of the problems and complaints of Palestinians, is that they feel so oppressed that Israel has to have a say over every move, their comings and goings. This is an elected U.S. Congresswoman. Her district is part of our 300 million plus people that pay $3 billion plus a year to Israel. I remember back when there was apartheid and Jesse Jackson was refused entrance into South Africa. I mean, Israel is supposed to be a beacon of freedom, and freedom means allowing somebody to say it even if you don't like it. Her not going to see her grandmother, I think, is right at this point, because that wasn't the only reason for her visit, first of all, and second of all, the Palestinian community is looking for her to fight on their behalf.
The U.S. is also a beacon of freedom, and it has banned government leaders from various countries from coming to this country.
Ahmadinejad spoke at Columbia University after enticing his crowds to burn American flags and talking against the United States, talking against Israel. Israel, saying that they did not have the right to exist, and applauding, applauding puppets of our presidents being burned. And yet he was allowed entrance into this country and spoke at Columbia University.
And another administration might not have let him in either.
Are there any winners here?
Look, I think in this case, I think the last 24 hours have shown that Rashida Tlaib was not acting in good faith here. I think it was pretty clear. Her rejection of Israel's offer to come and visit her grandmother was politicized language, racism, oppression, injustice. I think it was pretty clear. On the other hand, before that, I do think this is a place where there are legitimately two sides in this. Israel did pass a law a couple of years ago allowing it to keep out advocates of BDS and boycott, divestiture, and sanction. And so they exercised this law. On the other hand, from Israel's point of view, it's not a great idea to keep out a sitting member of the U.S. Congress. And in this case, they did particularly irritate Democrats who just happen to control the House of Representatives. Not a great idea on their part. There really were two sides, I think, especially before we found out that Rashida Tlaib was really not acting in good faith.
Does President Trump elevate her and the squad when he gets involved in these Twitter wars with members of Congress, or is he trying to portray the entire Democratic Party as holding, the squad's beliefs?
Both. There's no doubt that he seeks to elevate them and elevate this whole. I mean, I think for most people, the whole fight is just so stupid. And the congresswomen are as you point out, making this more about politics. I mean, who uses their ancient grandmother as a sort of political pawn in a fight like this? It's absolutely ridiculous. And of course, President Trump likes to elevate these people, and he elevates them because that's what he wants to run against. And by portraying the entire Democratic Party as being sort of with them as the face of it, it kind of helps his chances.
They could have gone with that congressional delegation that recently visited Israel, more than 40 members.
Absolutely. But this goes beyond that. It goes beyond politics. You have to remember, you're talking about two Muslim women. When there is such a spread of Islamophobia worldwide, and one of them happens to be a Palestinian American, when you have anger in the Palestinian territories about the building and the settlements, and that there's still no peace and still no two-state solution, which both of these women and many Democrats support. By the way, AIPAC and others, AIPAC very pro-Israel, has actually supported the congresswomen and felt Israel was wrong in their decision.
But they did that because for the political atmosphere, the theatrics of it.
They did that because it was wrong. There's right and wrong. They're two sitting congressional members. If I were a BDS supporter and wanted to enter Israel and they said no, I don't have a problem with that. Being that they're congresswomen, I do.
But she also, before the trip, announced that she would be part of a delegation to Palestine. It was pretty clear the political point she was trying to make going.